Hey guys, Karan from Moby Scrub here, and this is my very first review of a television. We have the Thomson 50-inch 4K Smart LED TV, and let me just begin with the specifications. So, 50 inches, 4K resolution, HDR compliant, it boasts of a contrast ratio of 4:1. It's a smart TV, so it is Wi-Fi compliant. It's running Android 5.1.1, which is disappointing because that's pretty old. It's got a dual core processor with 1 gigs of RAM and 8 gigs of internal storage, which is not a lot, but I think anyway you will be using a pen drive. And in terms of what all you get along with it, you can see that I already have the table mount connected, but you do get the wall mount necessary accessories. So it's not a lot. You can definitely get one of those really advanced mechanical arms that really stretch out. It's flexible. You can, rotate your TV in various ways, but you do get all the basics to get started with a wall mounting as well. Although the back is not something you look at, but it is plastic and it's not as good looking as you might want it to be, but I guess that's okay. Looking at all the connectivity options, you get an Ethernet port, 2 audio video inputs, 2 HDMI ports, and 1 coaxial port. 2 HDMI ports are pretty good because, you will be using one for set-top box connection and one for your gaming console, like your PlayStation 4 or an Xbox. But you do get a third port on the side, so you do get HDMI 3, which is great, TV input, an SD card input, and 2 USB ports, along with a port for connecting your earphones. Right after unboxing, there's still a sheet that's protecting the entire, the bezels as well as the screen, which you can remove after you're all set with the installation or mounting it on the wall. On the right side is where you have the power button along with, changing your source, menu, and the channel volume buttons. It's really just plastic, doesn't look that great though. Now I'm using the table mount, which is pretty easy to install. It took me just 2 minutes, but you do get a wall mount option as well in the package itself. Let's turn the TV on and finally see what it all looks like. Okay, so I have the remote in my hand and I've just turned it on. There we go, it's Thomson, the logo, friendly technology. And yeah, it's the first time I'm switching it on, so obviously it might take its own time to really come up to the interface that we're hoping to get at. Of course, it is a smart TV, so that's always good to know. It's running Android 5.1.1, which is a bit weird considering that it's a pretty old version, and even television sets that were produced 2.5 years back did come with Android 7. Anyway, that might put some limitations to the way native apps will run on this TV, but let's talk about that later when we come to that. Let me just talk about the remote real quick. It's all rubber, so it's not like a click, it's really just, soft presses. So that's the interface now. At the bottom, you've got all options and genres like movies, sports, music, and interesting videos. And then you have a couple of pre-installed apps as well, like YouTube, Netflix, Gmail, browser, and so on. That's your settings, and these are the most basic settings, all right? There is a menu button on the remote that can expose more settings depending on what source you're connected to. So if you're on HDMI, the menu will show more options. But these are the most basic menu settings. Now let me quickly get into getting this TV connected to the internet. One thing to notice is that it does not support 5 GHz band. So your router typically throws out 2 networks. One is at 2.4 GHz, which is slower but has a longer range, and the other at 5 GHz, which is lower range but much faster. So this TV does not support that. Just something that you should know. If you do know what 5 GHz does for you. If you don't have it or you don't know about it, it doesn't really matter much. But yeah, 2.4 GHz is pretty good enough, and I've connected it to that already. Now, once you're connected to the internet, you do get the option of playing all of these videos, whether from Vivo or YouTube. But this is essentially an aggregated list, and it does keep updating itself basis what's trending. A lot of this is actually aggregated just from YouTube. So if you were to play any of this, it would just play, on YouTube, which is fine. I think it's just a way to just present that aggregated content to you. And all of this is basically trending stuff. So if you were to go onto the YouTube homepage without being signed in, of course, this is what you would see. Okay, and as I said, there are all of these genres, whether it's videos, music, sports, and so on. Now I've just tapped on a particular video that I want to watch, and I just want to see the the quality and the interface here. So you saw that bar, right? It has a play, pause, and next track, which is pretty basic. But I think that's fine. That's pretty much what you need. And if you don't want to watch a specific video, you could just go back. You could just exit this by pressing the exit button on the remote. Let's also talk about the application environment and all the kind of apps that you get access to. So there are a bunch of them that's already in front of you, right? There's LinkedIn, YouTube, Netflix, GoIbibo, Facebook, Twitter, Skype, and so on and so forth. But you could also go to the App Store and you could actually download a lot more. So, Zomato, Pinterest, ClearTrip, TED, YouTube Kids, Happy Kids, NASA, PDF Viewer. You could actually download all of these as well. You could also download some games like Ball Pool, 8-Ball Pool, Solitaire, Angry Birds, DH, Texas Poker. You could also download SoundCloud and so on. So I've just come to the Netflix page and it gives me an option to update because it's already pre-installed on this TV, but obviously it's an old version. So, I'm just going to update that and let's see how the application looks. So while it did not take a lot of time to download, it did take quite a few minutes to install. But anyway, once it's done, I'm just waiting for it to load and it'll hopefully ask me for a sign in. And yes, there is a sign in option at the top right. And that's pretty much the homepage that they've loaded with an option to join free for a month. Okay, I do have my own sign in, so I'm going to go ahead and sign in. What's really difficult although here is that I'm unable to navigate to sign in very easily. I have to press the left and right keys somehow to be able to do that. Like, how a lot of remotes you can just hover with a cursor. Another option is that you see the hand over here that I have. So there is a button on this that can toggle between sequential move and between using a hand, and you can use this hand as a cursor, use the left and right keys or up and down to navigate with the hand. So it works like a mouse pointer, but it's just a bit difficult. Anyway, we will talk more about how Netflix and YouTube content works, but before that, let's actually try out some 4K content. So I've just plugged in the pen drive, and if you see there's a pen drive icon on the top that gets, it visible as you connect one, but it does not pop up anything. So you will have to manually go into the file manager and then look for a removable drive. Now I do have a 4K video that I downloaded, and that's pretty much what I would like to play here. And if you see, it gives you this option of using VLC player, so it's pretty Android style. Anyway, you can choose to have it always on to that. Now that's the video, and it seems to run pretty well. No hiccups, no lag, or any sort of delay. The content is playing pretty smooth, and you genuinely get a 4K display that can play 4K content. And do note that this TV is HDR compliant and it's using a Samsung display, so it can really bring out the contrast in a very lively and vivid manner, and that's something you generally see in really expensive televisions. The colors look really good, the blacks are really deep, and it's overall I pretty much like what I'm seeing over here. And it's got 20-watt speakers, which are just about average. I mean, they won't suffice if you're installing this TV in a slightly larger room, but like most TVs, you must invest in a decent soundbar that can start at about 4,000 bucks, but you can get a pretty decent one at 8 to 10,000 rupees. But you can pretty much go all the way to 3 or 4 lakhs if you really wanted to. The real test is to play YouTube and Netflix videos and see how those play out. Now, I'm just going to play a particular show on Netflix. Now, I know you can't really tell, but this does not seem to be playing in HD or even in full HD quality. Now, it's possible that this TV does not have the right mechanism to decrypt full HD or 4K content. I know that might be a little disheartening, but I do have a way around it. But before that, let's also test YouTube and confirm the same. Okay, so I'm just going to play a trailer here, and okay, the quality here is not that bad. I mean, YouTube has its own way of delivering quality content, so it depends a lot on your internet speeds, and it will automatically play back the best possible output. But there is no way to check what quality is playing. You don't even have the option of changing the quality that you generally do in YouTube applications. And also in the native YouTube app, I did not find any way of logging in. So I like being logged into using my Gmail ID on YouTube, because then all recommendations are basis my preferences and choices. Right now, I'm just getting random content that I'm not particularly interested in. I went into settings and I tried to see if there is a login, but it's just not there. So I would have loved it, right? And I think a way to do that is if you connect a gaming console like a PlayStation or an Xbox, you can then install YouTube and Netflix on that. And then you could pretty much get the latest support and all the features in those apps running properly. It's also pretty easy to connect your phone with the TV and mirror the content. There's this app in the file manager called Miracast, and then just go ahead, turn that on, and turn on Smart View on your phone. It must be an option somewhere in your settings or in the notification panel. And the phone will show up in your list, in your Smart View list as Smart TV. Just tap on it, connect, hit connect, and it'll just wait for some, if you just wait for some minutes, you'll be able to connect and you'll be able to stream content from your phone onto the television. And you can see it's pretty smooth, no problems, no hiccups. You can also play games, so I think that's pretty interesting. And you can obviously watch all your, YouTube content, Netflix videos on the TV by just streaming it directly. Now, things are a little different when you have an HDMI source connected. So I've connected my, the Thomson TV to an HDMI source. Things change because, you do get a more comprehensive menu. So as you can see, it's playing 4K content. You can see 3840 by 2160 on the top right. If you pressed menu, now you get more options. So you have more settings to play with, whether it's your picture mode, whether it's the brightness, the contrast, the color, the sharpness. You could go into the sound options and change your sound mode, although there is a button on the remote that does that directly. You can turn on surround sound. Please do that because it's off by default. And you can play with more settings if you really want to. So, it just does change the game a little. So guys, that's it about the Thomson 50-inch 4K Smart LED TV that I've got in this review. If you think I've left out something and there's something that you want to know, feel free to question in the description below and I'll be happy to answer. And thanks again for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button.